Anyone hear me now? I think for that, Jimmy just confirmed that you hear me, right?
Hello, sir, Mr. Gazal. We can't hear you.
Sorry that I keep people out of the meeting.
Mr. Gazal, we can't hear you still.
What about now? Can you hear me now? Hello? Wow, this is serious. Very good. Hello? Hello? I'm going to leave and try to join again. Yeah, let me just leave the meeting.
Right. Táwọn wọn ní kó gbà mí báyìí torí wọ́n mọ̀ fi wàhálà sí.
We are very sorry, everybody. Please, we hope he would rejoin back again and start it. I think there's an itch from him. Thank you.
we hear me now? Hello? Hello? So can anyone hear me? This is bad. Yes, no one can still hear me. Honestly, don't know why it's doing this. You know, who can't hear me? Okay. You can hear and hello? Hello?
So please, we are trying to get in touch with him. Kindly bear with us, please.
In history. This is the type of history that studies diplomatic relations between two or more nations, such as military, political, economic, and social relations. Cultural history, this is a type of history that studies social activities and social institutions, just as the history of family, marriage, education, and migration.
All right, hello everyone. Good afternoon. I would like to indulge every one of us to kindly be patient. As we know, this is something that is not really within our control. The instructor is very much around and is trying to speak with us, but of course we can't hear him, and he's trying to join this session. So I would just implore one of us to be as patient as possible while we try to resolve the current situation. I hope everything goes fine soonest. As we can see, the instructor is on the call back, but probably having some network issues which is trying to resolve. So let's kindly be patient with him. I hope everything goes fine. Thank you very much.
Hello, please. anyone hear me? Hello? 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 Hello?
Hello, Mr.
Hello.
Gaza.
Hello, we
Yes.
can hear you.
Thank you very much. So you can find, oh God, I'm totally sorry about this.
It's okay. You understand?
This network just disappoints. But these devices do disappoint when you least expect. Okay. Sorry for the delay.
All right, Mr. Abdurrahman Ghazal, you're welcome. And to everyone, thank you for waiting around. We are sincerely sorry about this. I believe Mr. Abdurrahman can carry on now.
Yeah, it's just a minute to
All right.
go outside. Hope we can still hear me.
Yes, loud and clear.
Yes, we can
Yes,
hear
we
you
can.
now.
That's
So,
good. Okay, kindly allow me to share my screen. Okay, I can do that. Yeah, totally sorry about that once again. Unfortunately, my device decided to go the other way, and yeah, just can never trust these gadgets 100%. Sometimes they disappoint you when least expected. Yeah, so thanks very much, and yeah, sorry for that once again. And to follow up from our class yesterday, we did the pivot table, and then by extension, we did the pivot chart. So in continuation from where we stopped yesterday, because of the time that had gone, sorry, we won't be taking break today. Yeah, let's just point that out initially. So from the concept that we did yesterday, only if there are any questions in regards to that, if there are none, we can proceed, I believe.
Láyé kò okay, you now ask, what of
Yeah, so I can't see any hands raised. In view of that, so when we did our plot yesterday, we could see the table, designing the table, doing the same assignment, but then using another method, which was the pivot table, and from the pivot table we could see the ease as well as the complex or different variations of actions that we can carry out with our pivot table. So by extension from the pivot table, we came to the pivot chart, which is this. So from the pivot table, I want to move to the charts. However, what I should point out is that you necessarily do not need to create a pivot table before you create a chart. However, a table will still be created. So I believe we had an example. This was one that we brought here. So we had this example yesterday where we just copied the table representation itself without doing much. We named our table already. So if we go to this thing, we can see we can't do any operation with the table because Excel already recognizes this data as a table, and hence it is ready to be used. So we can just go for the pivot table again. But instead of going for the pivot table in this case, I'll go for the pivot chart. So under the recommended chart that we explored yesterday, you could go for the pivot chart. And the moment we do that, you can see Excel is asking us, which table do we want to select? Of course, you can select an external table by going to the source. And if not, in this case, we're just going to use our table we have here. And this is the name. If it is not this one, you can always go and select whichever table it is. But for us, we're going to maintain our table. New worksheet, no, we don't want to keep, we want to see our data. So we are going to maintain the location. And then we just need to tell Excel where we'd like to start our visualization from. So let's just select a row here, that is a cell here as the reference point, and then we can start. The moment we click start, we can see this. Unlike when we click the start for the pivot table, we only saw the field as well as this to create the table. We didn't see a chart reference. But now, because we are doing for the chart, it's still going to bring out a table so that we can see what we are trying to sum up while it creates a chart alongside. So in this case, let's still go for our product as usual. Very good. We can go for region. Yeah, so the moment we did that, we can still say the same thing. The product on the row, while for the different columns, we have this thing, region against the product. So unlike this thing, it's still the same format, the same familiarity, you just need to drag it down into it. The value, of course, which refers to what we need to enter. But what we can see, we click on the pivot chart, and the moment we did that, the chart details was updated. So it recognized that, yes, the chart, we needed details over the rows. It created them on the x-axis. And the regions are what the legend, that is, they should be on the y, what we are trying to represent. Why is it giving us these random values? It doesn't know what we want to place in the value yet. The moment we drag something into the value, which in our case can either be just the quantity or the total price. If you have more data that fits there, it's good, but in this case, these are the data that best bring meaningful data out of our data at the moment. So what we can do for this is we just need to drag the total price. So if you want to get the sales value, as I informed yesterday, it's not just only sum. We can always change the field or remove the field, but we can always change the value. Either it is sum, it is average. So we want to get the average per product per region and not the sum of the total sales, but we just keep it at sum for our work. So we are dealing with the chart, but we can still see a table just like what we saw yesterday. This is because it wants us to visualize what we are doing, and then we can deal with the table itself. So it's a concept of you're dealing with charts straight, but then still see what you need from a basic table. So it's just a basic table which we can work with if we wish to, and if not, we can just leave it aside there. So working with our chart, which is this now, we already created this data, which is what's based on region to product, and then we have the total price. And compared to our price value, which we can remove the grand total if we feel it's going to be confusing us. So we just need to go to table, design, yes, so design for the table. As I said, we can design the table itself, even though that was not our intention initially. So we can always design the table like this. So we can always design the table, and what we can remove is we don't like the grand totals. So as we mentioned yesterday, all you need to do is here, we just need to turn off the grand total. So turn off for both rows and column, and then we have the main values only. For blanks, you can always tell what you should insert in blanks. And also for your report layout, you can always design this. For table of course is already in a tabular form, and you can always change these as well. But we've removed the grand total, and the table is not our main focus. So this is our main focus. For this now, we also can go to the analyze section. We can name our charts just like we named the table. So we can name our charts. We can include a slicer, just like we did yesterday. We can turn off region. Instead of having to do this, we can turn off region. So what I can do to this is, I want to put a region. Okay, let me include a slicer by category. Okay, add as a slicer. So right now we are adding this as a slicer. As I said, for the slicer yesterday, you can always change the design. You can make it 2 columns, so it reduces the space. And then we can affect the value on this table or the plot by removing some categories. So the moment we click off the category, we can see it changed, because now it's only representing that category. If we click the next one, we're going to have elements of that category as well. Now, East and West are not being affected, neither is the product being affected, but we are displaying these based on the category now, and we can always include more than one. So which will also affect the total sum is going to be included in there. And if we notice as well, our table is being affected, because the table is linked with the chart, and we included the slicer to the chart, which is connected to the table. So these are all things that one can include. For now, we just here include everything and keep our slicer here. So back to the table. Yeah, so back to the table, we can change the design of the table itself more than just that which we did now. Of course, you can always remove the field buttons that we did yesterday. And then if we come to design, so as regards to design, let's say we want to export this chart out. We can start by giving it an X and Y axis. That is, give it an X axis, and then give it a Y axis. So this is which it already has before, and it has the name. But then we can add title to the axis. So what we did before was we can remove the attributes that is written below. But of course, in this case, we need to know what is below. So we are going to leave that. We can add a title to both sides, just like in any charts we have, so that they know what is there. So we had, and then we had to the vertical axis as well. So this, you can edit it as normal text. We clear what is inside, and then we can write it in maybe capital product. And then for this, of course, we do the same. Total sales. So we have the title, total sales, that's for the axis. You can always give the chart itself a title as well. It can be above it, that's what you want to call it. You want to centralize it. So this you can do as well, we keep it at none. The data labels, you can always do that as well. You can add error, what you should do in terms of error, or then a grid, the legend, we have our legend, which now it is at the right. You can switch it to the left. You can switch it on top. You can switch it below. So it's a very flexible way in which you can design your chart as well. Then you can, of course, include trend lines or remove them completely. So which it's not suited for our case now. So for the out, that is the quick layout as well. This you can also change. So if we just observe the quick move, we're going to see that there's a difference in each of them. So this was the original one, in which there's a space between the East region and the West value rather for each product. So we can move, these are close by. There's a space here with numbers above. This is pretty much close to what we have before. So this you can all go through as differences in whatever you prefer. And of course, you can also change the color of the layouts themselves. That is for the states, you can change their color. So you can change it to whichever stuff that you prefer in terms of color, or like, just variation. So this you can always change as well. I think we are fine with our colors, so we're not going to change this. Then you can change the background and the lookout totally as well. So this is the plain one we have. We can go to this, change it to this, in which there won't be grid lines. Give the background some gray, just some gray color. Make it a bit faint. So these are all mediums in which you can explore to design. I see this bit dark. I don't think this is too fancy and not a good representation. We go with this. It's very faint. Okay, this is C. Yeah, perhaps we go with this for now. So you can, of course, switch the rows and the column as well without having to do much. You just need to click on this switch row and the rows are switched. But of course, this is not a good representation of our data. So why should we have east this way and west this way? Now we need to start comparing for each. If we want to compare arrow root, we'll start comparing what's the value on the east to what value we're getting on the west side. This is not good for our data set, in my opinion. So we can always change this back and just press the same button and it switches back again. So for the data set, because of the pivot chart we're using, data set are already selected. And in a situation whereby you're not using the pivot chart, you can, of course, always select the value yourself. So if you recall, we didn't design a table ourselves. From the general table, it's creating a summarized table for us and creating the relevant chart. And as we can see here, it's having the east as well as the west in respect to what to product. So pretty much what we are seeing here. We don't need to touch this. If you wish to do so, you can, of course, do. Then in terms of the chart type itself, you might not prefer this design. So we can always go to the chart type and switch from one to the other. So in this case, okay. Yes, so in this case, we can of course switch. This was the recommended one it's using for us. And as we showed yesterday, we can go through the different types. So from instead of column, we can go through the different ones. If we want to show the total value for each of them, and then we still want to show that it's not just one product or one region rather that we are calculating for per product, but it's different region. So it's more or less like here, one start over the other one. So if we are fine with this, we just simply press OK. And you can, of course, use the 3D, which they are mostly fancy and might not represent the true data that one wants to pass, the true message. Because when you're using charts, one of the rules that are one of the the best way to use them is to make sure that the chart itself passes the right message intended, and people are not like the message itself is not lost behind whatever graphics we are using. So of course you can use line as well, whereby it depicts the line of one product to the other. And as we can see for the West region, we can already see the products that are not listed, are not considered within the frame. So we can move from each one to the next. See that. But pie chart, I said it's good, but then it can be very deceiving because you don't know what value of what's one that is to the other. So this is for a region and not for the total. Just fancy stuff. And we have the donut, of course. So the bar chart, which was similar one to what we used yesterday. So this as well we can have. And like I said, we can still see every data that we kept while we're designing it is still intact. So the X and Y axis label, that is product and total sales. And you can, of course, choose different variation as well. For some of these, they do not pass the right message because in terms of like the area now, it's more distant. It's not as easy to explain as you'll probably find the bar chart in this scenario. So that's the area. You can, of course, use the X and Y plots, but then it depends in this case, which is not the best for our study case. And that's why we are not seeing any representation below. So we have the map. It's also not good, and that's why it's not creating a chart type. So these are ways in which you can actually go through it, and then Excel can tell you whether it's good for your values or not. We have the histogram, which all have their own function, but in our case, we can go back to the bar chart or just use the column that was initially recommended. So click yes. Let's not use the same thing. Let's just click yes. So we have edited our map, or sorry, our chart, and we've decided on the type we're using. So the last thing we might want to do is back. Yeah, so the last thing we might want to do is to remove this product, sum, and then region. So we just need to do this, and we've removed it. And now this is a chart that we can copy, paste into Word, use for something else, and it's readily accessible for further use. And you can, of course, change the attribute of the map itself. So if you have a question, Elizabeth or William, and it will be best if you raise your hand if you would like to ask a question. Okay, in the absence of none, I believe there are no questions. So let's just indicate them back. You can always show them again, you can remove them. So this is a way to deal with the pivot chart itself as well, without going through the table first. Well, as we can see in our case, the table was also displayed. So to create a chart, you don't have to go through the pivot route before you can create a chart. Let's go back to our assignment solution, which we did yesterday. So this is our assignment solution, which we did through the normal calculation. And now we can also create a plot. Let's go to the side, so we give it some space. Okay, I think I'll remove. So just before I'll remove the freezing. Be on the data. Oh, view, yeah, sorry, view. So I'll unfreeze the panel and we can better use the entire screen. Yep, so we can create a plot with our table here, which we have from the second question yesterday. So we have it as a table. We just need to identify the region. This is our home tab. We need to go to the insert, and these are the chart section. So for the chart section, which is part of data visualization, so all we have done so far is part of data visualization, which is not limited to one part. So we can have the 3D maps, which does not apply. This was the pivot chart which we explored. Then there's map itself, which we might want to depict some value over different regions. These are the main ones that are outside, which we can of course choose. So this is the pie chart. This is a scattered plot. We have the line. This is the histogram. So we have the combo where we join two or multiple. So this is the waterfall, which in this, this tree, and this should be the column. So we can still explore the recommended chart first, which with the recommended chart, we are going to see some value as well or some design. So this is the clustered column is recommending. In this case, there's a scatter plot that works for it, but then it is this thing just for one region. So it means we might have to use the one that has both regions or combined. This is a stack. The clustered, so you can just go through any of them. That is the next one. This, in this case, the funnel is giving us a suggestion, which do not best describe. And you are not restricted to use this, but we can always go to the charts ourselves and then go through it again, just like we did, and then choose on whichever one that we prefer. So the bar chart, the bar chart, the area, the X and Y. So compared to the first one that I suggested, which was only a region, we can go for this, which has both regions. So, and this will be the visualization. We can, of course, edit this. I'll name it total quantity. Oh, let me off my caps lock. Total quantity. Product. Region. So this is a general way in which we can deal with chart itself without going through the pivot table. So you just need to click on it, and similar stuff that we just showed, you can always change the design. You can go for a darker background now. You can add the X and Y title just by activating this button, edit the data label, include it. So these are all things in which one can do with this thing, with the plot itself. All you just need is that before you can create a plot, you must have a data ready, clean data, so that there are not errors, and then you want to use this and represent them with a plot and make some meaningful representations out of it. Whereby in this case, we can see that the disparity between the value for the West as well as the East for the same product. And in this case, we can see it's very close, even though the product name are not showing here. So it's because of our chart type. You can choose another chart type that will show that value, but because of our chart type, the names of the product are not listed here, in which in this case, it's starting from the first one all the way, just the way it's on our table. But then how do we know this is arrowroot or like, yeah, this is carrot or, and the likes like that? That's why we need to be very careful with the plots or the charts that we use, and then keep it as simple as possible without making it so complex, because if it's complex, then you could end up confusing people while you're trying to make a representation. So the plot has lost its value then. And as we did before, you can always change the design, change the format, edit the text themselves, edit the view, the background, the text, and yeah, name the charts and things like that. So it's just another flexible way to deal with charts. And as we did here, you're not obliged to like, yeah, use scatter plots, which you can just simply do for another one. So for this total sum, you go back to this thing, insert. We have our recommended charts, and we can explore it again. So all charts, we used, the last one we used was the X and Y scattered map. It's not the best listing for our case. Of course, not stock, surface, not radar, which then shows in what region of each product. As we can see, since I can't move the mouse while I'm just popping it up, we can see which one, in which, for which each product, which area is more stronger than the other, but then it's not the best representation. This, of course, is the total value, which is not the best per region as well. So let's see this, not the best. Okay, this is using asterisk. Now we have a question. If not, kindly yourself, please. So this is a combo which we can use as well. If we like to use different, that is, using a column for one and using line for the other, so that they are not the same, the same design. You can, of course, change them. So what do we use for the first one? I think this is pretty much okay. So we can drag these down here. So that represents for C. We can also change the title name, of course. And if we do not want it there, we can just select the whole area and delete it. Or simply come to this place and unclick the title, the chart title, and it's going to be removed. So we have more space. In this case, unlike the top one, we have the names of the product. You can see the color to indicate the region. And now we can see the line to indicate for the West total sales, and then the bars to indicate for the East, their total sales as well. So depending on the tax at hand, the plots to use, and the best plot that depicts what one intends, it's all distant, it varies. And these are part of what we call data visualization. So in view of that, I'll go back to the plot table and the pivot table rather. And why I'm going back to the pivot table is we mentioned something yesterday, which we didn't represent, that is keeping our table dynamic. That is, the moment we enter into a pivot table, the way we did it, that is by first going to a table, making sure it's a table, and once it's a table, we can always edit the table without need of going through all this process, and everything will be updated. So through that, we are going to go through a list, which to explore the date value. So we have the date value, which we have not used. We've not used it in our analysis so far. So as we can see from this, we have different days from the top. This is 2020, was the last year, 2021. So it's ranging from 2020 to 2021. And the first value, this 12 is representing the month. The 30 is the day. The 2021, of course, is the year. So let's go back to the top again. And let's create a new column to extract the day and the month. So to include a new, of course, we know is just to click within the table. And then we want to include a new column. So include it to the what? To the distant right. That's what we prefer. Let's call this day. And then let's include another one and call it to the right as well. And call that one month. So how do you get the day value and the month value? There's already an existing function with the same name. So all you just need is to initiate the function equal to write day. The moment you type day, it's already a function for day. There are other forms of it. Today, if we click on today, it just returns today's date. And as we can see, today is 13th of what? 13th of November, 2022. So it automatically returns today's date. So let's say we are working in this thing, a sales section whereby, yes, we enter this kind of values. We are not the one analyzing it, but probably the one entering the values ourselves. So we can just simply enter today without the need of writing 11/13/. So in this case, that's of course not what we want to do. So we just clear that again. So the function we want to use is day to get the day itself. And to get the day, of course, we need to enter the date, this thing, the date value. So we enter that at the middle and we close it. And I believe this is what someone asked yesterday. I can't recall the name. So as you can see now, I just made a reference to the date and we can see an @ in the formula. So I'm not the one initiating this, but Excel is referring to the header date by this formula itself. So, and if we press equal to, we are getting just more than the dates, which if we refer back, let's just use A2. We are still going to get the same value, so A and 2. We are still going to get the same value, which is not the desired distance we are getting. So Excel is referring it back to the year, getting the date and the month, and back to year 1990 because that's the return value the function day gets. But if we just want to get the day itself alone, a function we can use for this is equal to, we tell it text, and now we can get the value of this date, and it's because of the type of the date itself as well. That also affects the value that we get. But if we want to get this in terms of text and the day, that is, which is much better for our task. So to get the day itself, let's reference it as A2, which is still the same cell. You need to enter this in a quotation, which you write D, which represents day 3 times, and Y 3 times so that you have 3 indications. If we enter 1 and we close it, so the reference, open back, comma, open the quotation mark, enter D, we are going to be getting the numbers only, which is pretty much what we prefer, and not, what's it called? And not the earlier details that we received. But in this case, if you like to have it as like Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and things like that. So if you like to have that, this is first, as we can see here. So it's getting the numeric date, which corresponds. So this is 29th of March. And if we scroll down, we can see this is 29. Same thing for the month. Let me just do that at the top. So same thing for the month, we just need to enter the function text. We reference the dates, period, and we enter in quotation. We just need to write M once, and then we close it, and we press enter. So we can also see it's returning the month value that is 1 January, the 2nd month, February, the 3rd month, March, 4th month, April, and things like that. What about if we want to get these values in, what's it called? And that is the English name. So we want to get what day was this date. That is, was it a Monday, was it a Tuesday, was it a Wednesday, was it Thursday? That was very stressful. I have to start going through my calendar to figure out what day was 1st of January in 2020. So we still use the same function, almost the same formula. So we reference the same cell, which has to do with date, A2. We open our quotation mark, but instead of using just 1D, we use 3 now. And we close the quotation mark as well, and we can close our function, and we press enter. And now we have the days in which those particular dates correspond to. We can either check our map, or we can just open a small section here whereby we open a window. I'm trying to see if we get a calendar details online. Calendar. Yep. A minute, please. I'm trying to open the calendar and just not share my calendar, because at the end of the day, this is not to share my schedule. So I can't keep seeing the page that is comfortable to share. So new share. Can we see a Google page? Could someone confirm that, please?
Yes, sir.
Okay, that's good. So for the first one, it says what? 2020, 1st of January 2020 was what? A Wednesday. So this is, just need to move. This is 2020, and the 1st of January was on a Wednesday. So that just shows us how fast we can get this function instead of having to go through this entire process. So let me just check for another date prior to us returning back. What was the last value? The last value was 12th of 30th. That's the 30th of December, 2021. So what was the 30th of December, 2021? And that was on a Thursday. The 30th of December, 2021 was on a Thursday. And we can stop sharing this and return back to our Excel file. Yeah, if we can see the Excel file again. So this is the last entry, which we are seeing a Thursday, and it represents the 30th of December, 2021. So these are ways in which you can pull out the day information. So this is today. As just a day name, let's call it something like that. So we can do similar function for months. It's just the same thing, the same process. So we insert a new column to the right. We can just call that month name. Yep. We have our text function. We open our brackets. We go to the value, which is TA2, and then we open our quotation mark, M 3 times. We close it, and then we have the value. And this is much easier to compare. We have 1 to 1 January, and the moment it becomes to this February. So the main task here, which we want to depict, is we change the table. If we go to the fields, that is, these are examples that we did using the pivot table. We just need to click here. Right now, the entries, that is the column, the new fields we just created, are not showing beside the previous field that we have before. All you need to do is just click within one of these tables that is using the same field, right click and press refresh. The moment we press the refresh, we can see the additional ones are now there. So we have the month, we have the days, which is the numeric day, the month, the day name, and the month name. So with this in mind, we can actually create another table. So let me just copy a table here and have it over here. Okay, let me take it a bit down. Here. So taking it to a new worksheet, I just prefer copying a previous existing table, provided they have the same set of function. So I prefer copying the new table, and that way I can easily edit that instead of having to write the same function again. So by clicking on this table, what do we want to do now? Let's say we'd like to have the value, the total sales per month. And so we'd like to know how we are doing per month. So instead of product, we can keep product out instead of having the product. But I won't be using the month, the direct month here, because the direct month itself is a number like the name. Or we can even do the same for, the days, which days of the distance. So per product, this we can do here, but then I don't want product there at all. So we have the month, we have the total sales per month, and then we can evaluate which month is the best for us and which month is low sales. So from this, generally, we can evaluate they are not in equal this thing. So we can go back, we are in ohms. We are at the home page. Why is my keyboard hanging? We can make this accounting, of course, make them at least 2 decimal place, which is already, so by accounting figure is 2 decimal place. It's easier to visualize now. So we know the ones that are low. For the West region, we can always remove the grand total, which I feel we do not need in our table. So of all the grand totals here. So it's much easier for us to visualize. From the previous one, we can see the East region has always done better than the West region. But then even for the East region, we have some months in which the sales is a bit very high. So the moment we cross into August, or let's not say August because it's a bit fair here. So once we are in October, we should be expecting 2,000 sales in the East region. And then that's a boom. December, maybe because people have gone for public, destined for the holidays, they've gone to visit their family. So the sales are dropping in other regions, because the funny thing is in December, the rates actually increased for the West region. So for the East, the sales dropped, and January they resumed back. And most of the stores we are selling anywhere are like stationaries. So pen sets. Oh, sorry, this is fruit, not the one we did in class. Okay, so these are fruits. So they just came back and the product, and then we picked up sales again. And it dropped in February and it became stable pretty much. And so these are things you can do with the pivot table. From the date, date alone, we extracted what? We extracted the month value, and then we can check the sales per month as well. This can be done for days as well to see which days are we selling more and what days are more profitable to the firm than other days. And that way we can know that, okay, this day we are fine not selling or fine not opening, and no, we can't afford not to open on these days. These are like, the days on which these are like our peak days, so to say. So instead of months, we can simply drop distant day here and drag month off. And as we can see, we have Sunday to Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. So literally the store is open every day of the week. And this is per region, which we can remove region and then bring in city. So we can bring in city, and these are just all simple analysis that we can do. And aside from city, so one thing we can do here is bring in the month as a slicer. So we add the month here as a slicer, and then let's go to the slicer up page, and we can increase the column of the month. Let's make it 3. I think 3 is better here. So we can increase the column of the month, and with just this, we can check out what is the sales per day per month, which will be this. So literally in this branch for January, like Saturday is the only day in which sales was made. For other days, it's just empty. We can check for other months as well, February, across each city. And then we can even do a quarterly check by just activating certain months. So with the control, we can just activate certain months. We'd like to see how a quarter of a year, what's the report like? This is the quarter of the year, or this thing, we can say we want to say this thing, half. What's this thing, the reports by mid-year. So this is the first mid-year, what's the report? We can check the last one as well. So these are all things in which you can do to this thing. So evaluate your reports and then to make some meaning out of what the little data you have. So these are all these things, because visualization comes down to what concept. It could be table, just simply table. This could be plots, like we've seen before. So we can plot either of these. This itself, we can go through the normal, what's it called? The this thing, the pivot plot, or we can just go through. So the pivot chart rather, which is just here, we already have the table. So we don't need to go through insert. We're under the pivot table analyzer. We could just activate the pivot chart. So the moment it notices the pivot table, it just needed to pop up something we can use. So we can have these, and we can go for maybe the bar, this, which I think, the cluster fits well here, or the column rather fits well here. So do we want to increase it, or do we want to use it over 100%? What design should we go for? And go for this. So we can drag this just below our table and scroll down for full visualization. So these are, of course, data we can have, and then show that, for this thing, the start, this is for the East region, and then the West region was the monthly sales for the 2-year period, because don't forget it was from 2020 to 2021. So these are values we can have for 2 years, and then we can depict it as our plot. Do we have any questions on this? Question? If not, okay, we proceed. So this is a form of visualization. Not all visualization we can have within Excel. So not all visualizations we can have within Excel. So I'm just going to give you a simple example. We have, let's say we have number of customers. This is like the total number of customers that we have as a firm. Average customers per month. And what's the average customer per region? So what's our values per region? So these are parameters. What's the total customer we have as a firm? Let's say we have 100,000. What's the average per month? I say around 9,000 or 9,500. What's the average per region? 50. So these are the customers we have. Let me increase the font because of So I believe this should be clear enough. So this is just a general data we have. And let's say as a company, we want to use something that's called like here, an infograph. So we want to represent this not as a bar chart, but then as people to depict this in our report. So there are what we call get-ins, which are like here added features you can get by plug-ins, that is getting some other prepared software and adding them to your visualization. So in this case, it's already here as an add-in, which is called People Graph. If it's not in your own, all you need to do is click on this Get Add-ins, which might be another issue when it comes to, what's it called now? The version. So that's why I'm not going to do much on it. I can't say if it's on this version or not. So this is people, you just need to start People Graph. There are other ones here, as we can see, there are a lot. We have Wikipedia, so you just press it, and if you don't have it there, you just simply click on this add and you have it there. So there are different other functions that you could use, and depending on your need, you might just need to add any of these. And you can easily do them by just going to insert and then this add-ins, and you just simply click on add-ins. Here you can see the one you already have. For me, you can see I already have People Graph. So what you do is, if you want to use it, you simply click the chart. What version of Excel am I using? Okay, so I already did this. I don't know if it was too fast. So, yeah, I don't want it to affect the values. So I'm using Office 365. Like I said, it's a paid version. So I believe this account. And then, yes, I'm using Microsoft Office 365. So as a place, I could see the version ahead. This is the version I'm using. So version, yeah, 2210. But it's a paid version, so I don't know if it's comfortable for you to get that because of this tax and other tax. Of course, it's good and you can build on it. So the moment we click on it, we can, of course, delete it. And to do so, all we need to do is just click on this sign and say delete. So to call it again, we have our data. We just click on People's Graph and let me reuse it. It brings out this display with some data already on it. So to edit this data, to edit this data, there's already a data on it. We just need to click around the top here. So we can say this is the setting, go back from setting, and we want to change the title. So instead of number of apps, customer report, or customer's report of what? Food sales limited. Yeah, so that's our company name. To select the data you want to include there, you just need to click on data. This is a sample. So in our case, we have the values as well as what the number is represent start all, and you simply press create. At the moment we did that, this is a representation. So you can see what value it means for it, because we have just 2 regions. In case we had 3, we could have divided the 100 by 3, but then the average per region, let's just take it as 50, because it's just a representation. So our title name is so big for it to be contained here, but of course, if we expand, we are going to get the title within it. So we can see a representation. It's using how many people? It's using 10 individuals, I believe. So we have to, it's using 10 individuals to represent the number of customers we have. This is not one fully, because if we zoom in, we can see that a part of the ant is not as complete as these ones. And it's showing that off because it's not a full 10,000, which would have been 1/10 of this. So if we want to see it further, we can reduce the number and then we'll see it. So let's say we are reducing the number to 6. And then we can see it's like, yeah, the person is more than half filled, but it's not full. So these are representation which we can use, which is this is people graph, and then there are, of course, other ones depending on the form of report we would like to do. So this is just a simple example of data visualization, as we've been doing with our plot and chart as well. You just have different you could explore depending on what you're dealing with. So the last one we're going to take before further questions is called data validation, which has to do, we have this table itself. Let's copy our table. Oh, yeah, the same table, so let's copy our table. So we have this table itself, right? Let's copy the table. And then this is what? Data validation. Okay, so let's copy the entire table. By copying the entire table, we can paste it here. Yeah, just direct paste. Same thing. Yeah, you know, there are formulas in different other cells. It's telling us because of the this in total price that we calculated, the values are from another cell. Of course, let's remove this thing, the filter function. So back to home, and we can remove the filter in the header by unclicking filter. So we have this value. When we were trying to spool out the unique values in this section, yes, thank you. When we are trying to spool out the unique values in each section, we used a function that was called the unique. And to access the data validation function, you just need to go to data. And this is data validation. In our first class, we already used the flash fill, which was by writing something on top, it automatically detects what we want to write for the other columns. So that's the flash fill function. And then with this thing, so in order to remove this thing duplicates, in this case now, we can press, we want to remove duplicates from the regions, from the top to the end. So once again, just say Control and Shift and the down arrow or the up arrow, depending on which one you need. If we click on remove duplicates, you know, we should get 2 results. But in this case, it cannot give us 2 results. Why? Because it's saying it's considering it as a table that has other values assigned to it. But then we can still do it for the entire table. Let's say you just want to be sure that someone has not entered one order twice. So if someone has not entered one order twice, we can do it for the entire table, which in this case, all the tables, that is our headers, from order to region to city. We can do it for all, and we simply click here, check if there are duplicates for all. Of course, our data has header, so, and it's telling us that no, there are no duplicates. No duplicate was found. But then, if we are not bothered about what the orders are, let me do that by copying the table itself. Let's see, I'm copying the table and then I'm pasting it beside it. So the same value, the same region, it could be region, it could be any of them. Then I'm saying that, okay, I want you to remove duplicates, but I do not care about the order dates. I do not care about the quantity. I do not care about the price. We have limited it to some regions, but then even for region, let's say we do not care about the product, nor the category of the product. So by doing this, we can reduce it to just the regions as well as the city. So, and here it tells us the value that is found to be duplicate. That is 240 values for others, they had the same region / city. That is both region and cities were the same. because that was the two that we left checked. And hence we can maybe remove, let's say we're deleting the order because it wasn't important to us. Either way, the order is also important to us. So it could have been something that we could have just copied those two columns alone and then represent it. So for each region, we want to know the city. So for East, we have Boston, of course. For West, Los Angeles. For East, New York. For West, San Diego. So this is the same function as the unique function. It's just that we are able to spool more than one option from it. So we can do the same for this thing, category and product. So all the way down, and we just say remove duplicates, or let's copy it. Let's not remove it there, so let's copy it with the headers all the way down, and then we can paste them here. So now we are moving with the values only. So the values only, remove duplicates, and we can see it's just the region. So in this case, we want for each product still tell us the categories, even if the categories are duplicates. And by pressing OK, it's telling us for this it is 235, and it has reduced it to strictly category and products that are unique only. So unique combination of these two. So this is something we can have by using the data validation itself. However, a more unique function we can use of data validation, which I would like to show us, is the entry. Let's say we are copying this, pasting it here. Oh, my screen is not too small. Let me increase it so we can see it's much better. And then let me leave the initial table. I do not need that again. So what I want us to do here is let's clear everything. So clear the content. We would like to create a table. Yes, we have a table here. We want to create a table for someone that is going to be entering the details itself. So here, data validation is very good. Why? Because you can make sure you restrict the form of data someone is entering to make sure that, yes, the data entered are actually very correct. So now we have order date, that is the date in which it is ordered. Let's say we want to do this representation for this year. That is, the values must not be more than, what you can enter must not be more than a date within this year. So we have under the row columns that contain values for dates, we click on data validation. The moment you click on data validation, this button pops up, which it tells you what setting do you want to do? What should you allow? There's a list. If you say any value, we can enter anything there. You can tell it to accept only whole numbers, only decimals. You can give it a list. In our case, it is what? A date. You can even give it time, a text length that, yes, you can enter more than 30, you can enter more than 40, or we can even customize what we prefer. So in this case, we'll go with dates. What start date must it be if we want a year report? So we're just going to say from the first month, the first day of that month, and then let's say the year 2022, which is in our case. What is the last date? Which should be the month first, 12th of December, 31st, 2022. That's what we are applying, right? Ignore blank. Why are we telling you to ignore blank? Because for the places whereby they've not been entered anything, don't be bothered or give us error message for it. So before pressing OK, we can go to input information, give it a title, which we don't need a title in this case, we already have order date. And we just simply press enter date, or we don't even press anything at all. So enter date. What error message should it give? Stop. Incorrect date. So we are not giving this one a title as well, but the message you should write is don't let it continue at all. We can do others. We can say you should give information, give warning, or just stop. No, we don't want you to accept anything other than it. And we press OK. So the moment we are within that cell, we can see the message, enter date, enter date, enter date. So these are one of the benefits of data valuation. If I say 4th month, 20th of the 4th month, and I say 2022, we can see that it's accepting the date.
And at the end of this whole thing,
okay, so we are continuing with the same date, but different year. If I enter 2021, incorrect date, our error. Why? Because we've already restricted the period it can accept for. So it's telling me to try again. Okay, 2020, still error. Why? Because we've limited the date range. So even if it is 34th of the date before, that is 2021, it's still going to give us the error because it's not within the range period. But if I should write 2020, it's going to accept it. Why? Because that's the last day. If I say 1st of 2023, it's not going to accept it. So this way you can make sure that the person entering it is properly guided and not going beyond the desired period, because someone can mistakenly while typing it and go and write a year period that's listed. So these are ways in which we can edit the file for the region. So in this case as well, we have regions now, which for our region, we have 2 regions. We have East or West. So for this, we can also do similar stuff. Enter for region, and then we can use data validation. What data validation do we want to look for? In this case, what's going to be our setting? We want list. List, where is the source you should go and find? We can simply pick any 2 years since they are together. If not, we can enter them separately and pick them. So we have East or West. That's the value we want you to include. East and West, just 2. If not there, you could have simply entered them within a space here. So what's the message? We say enter region. So what's this? Give a warning sign. If the person enters a wrong region, or in this case, the person can't ever enter a wrong region because it's going to be a drop-down list. So we can ignore this in this case and just simply press OK. The moment we did this, we can see it's saying enter region, and then there's a small box beside it, which will bring out the 2 options. So what's the 2 options? East or West? So we simply say East. For this one, we can say West. So this way, we are also minimizing the effort of someone having to go and start typing in, whereby they can just click and enter the location. So now, because we know each city has a region, what we could have done is we could have entered the city first, which would have been much flexible. That is, switch their location, make you enter the city, and when you enter the city, it brings the region. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to undo this drop down I just did now, and then do it for the city. So it's going to be this section all the way down. Data validation. Enter list. What's the source? Our 4 cities, right? Enter city. So we don't need, or this thing, just give an error, a warning sign. Yep. And that should do. So for our city, we can select the city. Okay, it's Boston. For the next one, Los Angeles. we can do this, send the ergo without the need of typing. However, because we know for the city can only be in one region. The city can be in multiple regions. We can use our function, which we already know, which is called what? The VLOOKUP. That is, let me just scroll down, not so fast. Yeah, so we can use our function of VLOOKUP, which we're already familiar with. That is equal to VLOOKUP, but in this case, if the city was in the first column and region was in the second one, VLOOKUP would have worked fine, but now we'll use XLOOKUP because VLOOKUP doesn't allow when the return result is on the first column. So VLOOKUP, what do we want you to look up? Look up any value that has been selected for city, which will be S, that will be S4. City is in S column. The row we are activated on is in 4. So that will be S4. As you can see, because of the lookup function, that's why it was overlapping it. X4, where should you look at that value from? Look at it within this range, which we can always use the numbers as well. So we have that to be in K3 colon 2, no, that would be K4 then. So K4 colon to what? K7. And as we can see, it's already highlighted. Of course, we would like to keep this as absolute reference. We like to keep this in absolute reference. So our F4, we enter column. Don't forget the next thing is what function, which value should it return? Return this region as well, which no, we don't want this. We want the value itself. So that will be L4, L7. So L4 to L7, we want this as well to be what? To be locked. And so we simply click on this function. This is the region. Oh, mistake. It should be J and not L. J4 to J7. And so we don't need to enter the region. The moment we select something here, it's going to give us the corresponding region. So if we drag this down, we can see for Los Angeles, it selected the west. For San Diego, it's selecting what? The west as well, the corresponding region, without us needing to enter these values physically. So making it easy for whoever is entering these details to be able to do this stuff fast. So in view of this as well, for these places that they are not available, as we can see, we are getting an error message because the condition is not being fulfilled. And this was a similar issue we experienced when we were using if statements, that is the ifs, in which if they do not get to fulfill, what do you do? So there's a function which the name is called if error. This is the function, if error. So it tells it that if something that you want to do, if that stuff is not possible, what should be the error message that you should do? That is what this function is for. So which was like when we use the ifs that you can only enter criteria, you can't enter an error, you can't enter a message that once the condition is false, do this. So that's why this if error exists. You enter it and then it can take in the error message. So I just wanted to show us this before we use it along this function. So back to the top again, we need to put the if error in the quotation. So we start if error. So we select the if error. Now the value, which is the first thing that is returning, is that yes, if there is no error, return this value, which is what the operation we are carrying out itself. That is, if there is no error, return the correct place that it is there. So comma, however, if there is error, what should you do? So in this case, we don't want it to do anything. We want it to just be a blank space. So all we just need to do is enter quotation beside each other without putting anything inside. So we are using an empty quotation. If we leave space between the quotation, it's going to put space inside there. And don't forget, space is a special character. So it's a character considered by Excel, and that's why we are not putting anything there and making it see that, okay, we want you to leave it blank, just leave it empty. So we close it and then we press equal to. You can see our function itself is not being affected, but when we drag it down, so our table still looks normal without any distant error, but then the moment we enter any city, which we can enter New York here, it's still going to carry out the desired function. So this we can do for the product category as well, just like we just did it here. And you can also do it for the total price. That is, we just need to have the price function, enter this general function that we did, the normal function that we did so far, enter it, and then all we just need to do is that, so that it doesn't give us error because we have not entered value, we just use the if error function to tell it that leave it blank for now, and once there's a value entered for quantity, compute the total price. So I think that will be all for me. As we've gone through, so as a summary of the course itself, we went through text, that is, we split text in the first class, having to deal with names. And one of the things we noticed there, are there questions on this function before I proceed to a summary? So is there a question on the data validation function? I'm not seeing any hands raised. Okay, so as a summary of the class itself, we went through text distant editing, that is using the proper, the uppercase, the lowercase, splitting of the distant text itself, using the text to column function, which was this that we used then. We used the flash fill as well. And then we used the trim function. So we dealt with text. After that, we dealt with number functions, so carrying out simple arithmetic operations, the sum, the multiplication, the division. Then we started going into the product, the square root. After that, we started the conditional functions, which are to deal with the if, the ifs, the count if, the sum if. And then we took it to the pivot table, which we did yesterday, still continuing today. We did the chart as well, the pivot chart or the charts generally. And as we can see as well, there are other forms of data visualization, which we saw now with the people graph. And then we can have data validation as well. That is to make sure that certain values are just the only one entered. So in the case of like this quantity now, we can do data validation. Quantity, you can't really say, although it might be possible for certain products to be half, like 1.5 or something like that, but we can then limit it that maybe because our product does not allow half. Let's say we are selling soft drinks, and then you can buy half of a soft drink. So you can buy half of a soft drink, all you just say is that it's a number, whole number. You can give it between, or this thing that is a region, or you don't sell more than this certain amount. So it's not possible for your this thing to write a maximum amount when your company doesn't sell more than that amount per person. So these are all things in which one can do and then say, okay, because you have not included the maximum and minimum. That's why it's giving this thing. So these are all functions that we can explore. And then with this, we can produce a valid and good data report. Either sheet as itself as a worksheet in order to take data in with the data validation as well as other function, or we can prepare it in order to analyze the data that has been given to us. So I believe, as we can see, all these stuffs are not just one function alone. When you are carrying out certain tasks, you might need more than separate functions here to work together in order to give you the desired result. I hope you've enjoyed the section as I did myself, and I hope you've learned a lot. And you'll be taking what you've learned so far as a solid foundation to build on, both in terms of Excel as well as a support for other programming languages as well. One thing, don't practice or watch the video alone. Ensure to make sure that, yeah, you carry out these tasks yourself. If you encounter error, try to watch again and see where you did the mistake. And then if you have those around you that probably will listen, when you're opportune to have access to this section, this class, then you can also teach others, and that way you'll be sure that, yeah, you'll be grabbing the knowledge and mastering it yourself. And for other things, you can always research them and, yeah, expand the knowledge. That will be all from me, and why I pass the mic to the organizers to give their feedback. Thank you. So do we have?
All right, thank you, Mr. Gazal. Is there anything, I wouldn't know if our participants have any questions to ask you. So please, if we have any questions to ask Mr. Gazal before he leaves, let's ask.
Okay, Mr. Birazak, hand is raised.
Mr. Abdurrahman for the class. It's so insightful. I want to make a request. The Excel sheets with which you used, the ones to be like all the exercises you've done up to today, can you share so that when we practice, we can confirm what you're doing is correct using that Excel sheet used in the class? The one you just finished using today is the updated one, rather, I would say. Yes, thank you.
Okay, that's fine, but the way I see it is that the raw material, that is the raw file I'm using, as you can see, it's the homework file, which we all have by now, whether we did it or not. I believe we have the homework file. And why I feel I shouldn't share it for you is because you just might see the formula there, but then for you to grab the information, the moment you're watching the video and you are trying to replicate it, it passes the message better. So I hope that explains the reason why you're not getting the solution file.
Okay, I think that's a better one. Thank you.
You're welcome. You're all welcome. I appreciate the comments and the chats as well. Yes, there are no further questions. Yeah, it's been great so far. Thanks to the organizers and thanks to everyone.
All right. Well, thank you so much. We really appreciate your efforts, and really your class has been so insightful and impactful. We appreciate you so much. Thank you. So to other participants, I hope we have been able to benefit a lot from this class. Would share the videos with you, and would await how our next class will be. Thank you. You may leave.
Hello, ma. Are we still going to have the our assignments, the one we submitted? But you promised giving us, sending it back to us.
Okay, so I would speak with Mr. Gazal, and we'll know what's when he will send it back to us. I hope I'm clear.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. So we can leave. Thank you.
Hello, when are we having another assignment, please? Hello.
Hello. Would send, if we'll be having any assignment, we'll send it to the Slack channel.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.